Good evening, Philadelphia. Listen, man, here we go again. Here we go again. Joel Embiid injured again. Man, we can't make this shit up. We really can't. Tony Cutillo, HRS Late Nights. As always, make sure you're liking and subscribing to the show. Subscribe to the YouTube page, like the YouTube page, like the stream. We are live everywhere. We are live on X. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. Call-in line is open. I say this all the time. Call-in line is open. It's literally, look, it's right there, man. It's right there in the feed. You want to call in, you want to comment, whatever we have to do. We got a lot of good topics to talk about tonight. A lot of good topics to talk about tonight, man. And what I like about it is I say this, man, I'm nothing without the audience and the consistent audience of, specifically on Facebook, who has really when I post things and debates, everybody's getting into it, which I love. It's professional. Nobody's called out. Nobody's saying you're an idiot for thinking that, right? There's none of that. It's just a great debate. And that's what I want to kind of get into. Not like, listen, are the Eagles going to win? Yes or no? Come on, man. Like, how generic can you be with that, right? We try to do something different. And, today's tally, I have a vote on X. I have it up. And we're going to read the comments later on from everybody who involved themselves in the comments. And I think it was a really good debate. And it's based off when we talked about the top 10 Sixers of all time the other night. So we're going to get into that. We'll talk about AI and Joel Embiid. I will say something before we even start. Shout out to Jalen Brunson, man. Number one, Jalen Brunson deserved to be the starter in the Eastern Conference. Okay. He didn't deserve to be a reserve. He was a reserve, obviously. He deserved to be, but he deserved to start. Okay. He got snubbed. He should have been starting, but you want to see somebody who actually loves the game and is passionate about the game. Go scroll and watch the end of that Knicks game where he literally put that entire team on his back, kind of like what Tyrese Maxey's doing right now for the Philadelphia 76ers in Utah, but literally broke down in joy, in elation, because he loves the game of basketball and he knows how hard he worked to get to this point. How many times he was told no, how many times he was told he's not going to be a max player, how many times he was told he's not going to fit in. And here he is, first time All-Star, and my man Nova's own balling out Jalen Brunson. So shout out to Brunson. I love that. I love every minute of it. When I scroll through these things and I see stuff like that, we got to bring it up. We got to bring it up. And it's something that, it's got to be talked about. And it's a really cool thing, man. It's a really cool thing. And obviously, shout out Tyrese Maxey, first time All-Star. Had a really good smile about him right tonight. Why not? And then Nick Nurse is a great quote. This is from Lauren Rosen on Twitter. He said, for the first time, it's got to be exciting. It's certainly well deserved. He's played amazing. He's worked really hard. And here's the best part about Nick Nurse's quote here from Lauren Rosen. The exciting thing, I think, he's got a long way to go to reach his ceiling, which means Nick Nurse, first year coach, is looking at this kid, and that's the important part. This is the first time he's getting a look at this kid up close. This isn't the same coach he's had for the last 3 years, and he's saying he hasn't even reached his ceiling. Okay, so that's an unbelievable topic right there, unbelievable quote, which I absolutely love. So we're gonna get into a bunch of things. Okay, and we'll preview the show like we always do. We'll be here till about 12:30 tonight. So if you want to get in, phone lines are open. Whether you're on Instagram, I didn't get that to get live yet. I'm trying to figure that out. It's very complicated, so I don't know if I'm ever going to do that. Like, it's just like you got to do so many stream keys and hit live and dual echo and all that. Like, man, if you can't get on YouTube, Facebook, or X, I can't help you. How's that? Not to sound ignorant, but it's just tough, man. I'm doing this solo. Right. I like we all do. And it's just too many buttons to be hidden while I'm trying to do this. So let me go through the show. Obviously, first thing we're going to talk about is, unfortunately, right? I say this, unfortunately, here we go again, right? Here we go again with Joel Embiid. And, we talk about it again. Joel hurt once again. Will the pain ever go away? will the pain ever go away? Meaning, will the pain of him getting hurt, will the pain of the suffering that we have to get four times with the meniscus, man. This is just like it's tough, man. It's really tough. So we got to talk about it, and we got to see it. And I will say this, man. I usually don't do this, but I had to. I'm sorry. I get so tired of talking about topics, and then the next day they're heard on the radio. The next 2 days they're heard on another outlet. Dude, I talked about and Joe and Adam, the people that follow me religiously, know I brought up a year ago. I got killed for it, and I said I don't think that the Sixers will ever win a championship with Joel Embiid as the focal point of their offense. I said that, right? Now, all of a sudden, Fox 29 wants to run a vote tonight asking that same question. You're a year late, Fox. You're a year late. Already asked it. Like, come on, man. Have some premeditated notion. Let's not just jump on the opportunity when something happens and just go, oh, let's talk about it now. Come on, man. Have some insight to look down the road and try to develop some really unique questions. So that kind of bothered me tonight. Sorry, I know. Listen, they don't even know who the hell I am. They don't know what I'm doing, right? It's just a fact of it. It's so easy to low hanging fruit, man. Low hanging fruit. We're also going to get into obviously Tyrese Maxey. Right. And it's funny. I asked this question, Tyrese Maxey, first time NBA All-Star. Could he carry the team one day? And like Joe says, what he's doing right now in Utah. So I'm interested to know, do you think he can carry the team one day on his back? Because that's going to be important. That could come up. And then we're going to bring out our man, Jose Alvarado, who gets some love from MLB Network. He's named the top 10 relief pitcher in all of baseball on their ranking list. And I have to ask, do you think he can be the Phillies closer full time? Is Alvarado able to be the Phillies closer? I'm curious. See what you think. And then here's the great question of the night. The great question. And I found this picture, which is shot out the cross and broad. They threw this up like last year. I love this question, man. This question, this is going to get people going. Joel Embiid or Allen Iverson? Simple, right? But here's the key. If you could take one of those players, AI or Joel, for a 5-year run and build around them, who would it be? Now, this means all health. They stay healthy. Health is not an option. It's 100% healthy. 100% healthy. Who would you build around? Who would it be? That's the question. So I'm curious to see where we go with that. Very, very, very curious. Very curious. We got to go right back. Okay, right back to where, again, here we go, Joel Embiid. I don't even know how to think about it, man. Like, we go through this every year. It's like we finally get brought in, we finally get in there, and then boom, right? Boom. It just hits you like a ton of bricks, man. It's like, you really exert all this passion and all this energy. I know it's not his fault, man. Like, it's not his fault. But again, like Joe makes a good point here, right? Now, Adam says, same old song, same injury he had in that Hawk series. Yep. Joe says 2 years in the postseason, and Embiid had a tear to meniscus, played through it, but never reported he got surgery. Remember, he was playing was he playing tennis with like Daryl Morey or something like that, or whoever he was playing tennis with, but he had a torn meniscus. I don't know. It's like you can't even trust our injury reports. You have no idea what's going on. Adam says, I have Alvarado on my fantasy team. Good for you, Adam. I think he has a really big year. Javon is, and again, here's my point. And I agree with Javon wholeheartedly here. Because this was my argument. It's hard to win a title with a big man unless you're Jokic. It's still a guard and wing dominated league. Yeah, it is. And, it's so hard. Like, that's why I think his dominance already this year was so special, because it is so hard. It is so hard to do that, right? It is so hard to be a big man and run the floor continuously and to stay healthy and to not get winded and not be able to be flunky with the ball at sometimes. And I think that's what happens. I mean, look what happened last night, right? I mean, you got like, look what happened last night in Milwaukee. How are they enjoying the Doc Rivers effect right now, right? How are they enjoying the Doc Rivers effect? They need a 3-pointer with 4 seconds left, and Dame's inbounding the ball, and he gives it into Giannis, which they obviously foul him. Like, what the hell is going on? That just shows the argument right there, right? You know, that's got to be Dame's time. That's got to be Dame time. That, like, and again, that's why it's so hard to have the big man as the focal point of your offense. And again, yes, it was all working on all cylinders. Okay, I agree. Everything, the system was working fantastic. The problem is when you have a big guy like this, odds are he's going to get nicked up. I mean, the history is there. This is no secret. And it's really hard to build that team chemistry and to go all in when you just never know if that's going to happen. Right? You just never know if that's going to happen. Javon says this for Maxey. I definitely think he can carry the team to the future. He has that star power and ability to continue to get better. You know what, Javon? I don't know. I'm being honest with you. I don't know what it is. Like, I look and I'm like, damn, man. Like, I want to say yes, right? I want to say yes, but I just need a little more. I just need a little more. I think for me, though, the one good thing is with Tyrese, he's one of those players he's not going to stop. Until he gets to his pinnacle, he's not going to stop. But I will say this, he definitely needs somebody with him. Now, I'm not saying he needs an absolute superstar, but he definitely needs a star. Because we've seen him go on streaks where, you know, he'll shoot 0 for 8 from 3-point land, and maybe he's not driving with the same intensity, right? And again, I think that's all on how managing your body. So I think you're right. When you say future, that's probably what you're thinking. So, yeah, I do think that if he continues on this path going towards the future, I definitely think he could win in this league, you know, with guys surrounding him. I do. Javon says some players just can't shake the injury bug. We see it in sports all the time, and it sucks. Like, honestly, think about it. Think about guys like Amari Stoudemire. That microfracture on the knee surgery, man, is just killer. Tracy McGrady, another guy. Grant Hill, like, just could never shake the ankle issues, man. It's such a shame when you think about it. The players that have never been able to stay healthy, and it just sucks. It does, and it makes you really, really respect the guys that have been able to do it for so long, right? The guys have been able to do it for so long, and that's the thing. Now, Joe says, I'm not building a team around a guy who whined that his teammates didn't give him the ball as the MVP. And Joe's not wrong. I mean, you know, that did come up. That was a problem. Okay. That was a problem. So, you know, listen, you know, but you could also play devil's advocate, Joe, and say, well, are we going to build around a guy who was so ball dominant that you could never get a guy in here that was going to take too many shots because he wasn't going to pass in the ball at all? Like, you know, it could go on the other end too, but I'm definitely going AI. Like, I'm going AI. 100%. Now, Eric says the unicorn effect. I love it, man. Look at my man David Roskin checking in. Says, what's up, dude? I'm watching the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim versus the LA Kings, 127-96 on YouTube. My man David is a sports fanatic, man. Like, I love it. He's always bringing up these great historical points. My man Crew, y'all, I think this is my man Vance. What's up, Vance? He says, if both are healthy, you take Embiid. You can't argue. You can argue that you win with guards, but AI was so inefficient, a volume shooter, and he had to play with guys who had a very specific skill set. Now, that's a fantastic point. Now, Vance checked in on the Facebook, and I was going to read it later, but because he alluded to the same thing about the inefficiency, which I think is huge. And what he says is playing with guys who had a specific skill set. And the reason why Vance is so right with this comment is because if you think about it, so many times they tried. Remember, how many times did they try, whether it was Glenn Big Dog Robinson, whether it was Tony Kukoc, whether it was Keith Van Horn, they tried Chris Webber. They tried all the time to bring in somebody else, that 1B, and it just never worked. What worked was just get out on the ball, right? What worked is, hey, Tyrone Hill, get down on the block, and every now and then we're going to give you the ball. Hey, George Lynch, play terrific defense, face up everybody, and just be able to hit a 12-footer and cause contact and get to the line and be able to shoot 75 to 80% for the free throw line. Hey, E. Snow, just command the offense. We don't want you to shoot. Just command the offense, right? Like, and that's the thing. Matt Geiger, dude, just dunk the ball and rebound. And don't get fouled out, right? Like that was the method. And then you had the most efficient shooter on that team in Aaron McKee, who just obviously won the six-man award that year in 2001, but was just completely efficient from everywhere on the court. When you think about it that way, you say to yourself, okay, I see what they were doing, and that's how they had to build. That's how they had to build. So Vance is correct with that point, that maybe you can argue that you win with guards, but AI was too inefficient, a volume shooter who had to keep jacking them up, right? But my whole thing is if they're both healthy, right? If they're both healthy, and here's the actual question, okay? Because I couldn't fit the whole thing on the banner here on StreamYard, but on Facebook, the actual question is, and I'm going to read it. The actual question is, if you could have a guaranteed, healthy Allen Iverson or Joel Embiid with no cap or restrictions for 5 years, and you could build around one of those guys, who would it be? So that's basically saying you could build a super team. That's basically saying you can draft whoever you want. Like, it's saying who's with the focal point, who would it be? That's why, as much as Vance is right and correct about the inefficiency and the volume shooter, I do think that AI had to do it that way. And I think he knew he had to do it. Right. And I think that's why he was like that. Like, we never saw him with somebody that wasn't, like Joe's going to say right here, that wasn't cooked, right? Weber was cooked. Big Dog was cooked. Van Horn. Joe, I'm not saying I like these cats. I'm just saying they were the guys that he was given, right? They were the guys that he was given. And it's like the McNabb effect, right? For so many years, McNabb never had a number one wide receiver. So he had to make the best with his legs and his jukes and everything he could to be the guy in order to get that team to the next step. So AI had to do the same thing. I would love to see AI with somebody else. Like, could you imagine? Like, I'd be curious. Now Javon, now this is Maxey, but think about it. Like, he says, I'd like to see Maxey pair with a Paul George type wing. It's funny because, when we drafted Ben Simmons, and I proclaimed that he was never going to be the guy. I had the gut feeling. I watched them. I listened to them. I just said, look, this guy's not Philly. This guy's not built to win. This guy's not built to play. We're not going to be able to play with this dude. I'm just telling you right now, he's not the guy. And when he got injured and things start to be happening, I said, yo, I would trade him right now for PG-13. Now that was in, like, honestly, that was his second year. I said I would have traded him for PG-13. Now, could you imagine? And I got killed for that. I got killed. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. You should be waiting on this guy. How can you give up already? Like, there were so many different things here. So many different things. And look at it now. Look at it now. It would have played itself out like poetry in friggin' motion, man. And that's the great part. But listen, that's hindsight, right? It's all in hindsight. So, David says he's bringing up the Knicks, who, listen, won 9 straight. again, I love talking everything. This is Philly based, but we bring up everything, man, because I was just talking about Jalen Brunson. You know, Nova's own, man. Jalen Brunson finally making an all-star game. Should have been a starter. Should have been a starter over Dame. I think we all agree with that. And getting very emotional on the court. Very, very emotional on the court. And, you know, I will say this, you know, Jalen Brunson's a really good dude, man. Like, he's a really, really good dude. And I say that because, you know, I told the story, but just, you know, he waited around, came back on the court one time, took a picture with my kids, the kids that I coach, you know, at the Wells Fargo. He wasn't even at home. Even when the security guard said no, he was like, no, 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 I got this. And great guy, talked to him for a couple minutes. And it was nice to see him, you know, show that much emotion, right? It was nice to see him show that much emotion. And he deserved it, man. He deserved it. He, like I said, he's one of those players that you can connect to. Like that's the thing. You can't connect to everybody, right? We connected to AI because he left everything on the court. He was a warrior, like Joe said earlier. He left everything on. You never had a second guess AI's effort, ever. You never had to say, "Oh, I wonder if Allen's going to show up tonight." Never had that question. Never. He left it all on the court, whether you liked it or you didn't matter. He left it all on the court, whether he shot the ball 40 times for 26% or he shot the ball 35 times for 48%. It didn't matter. He brought it all on the court. He left it all on there. He never stopped hustling. He never stopped running. He played both sides of the court, but, you know, whether it be on defense, whether it be on offense, he did it all. So, you know, I look at Jalen Brunson as that kind of gritty like player, man. And he's very easy to relate to. He's very easy, you know, to really fall in love with, you know, watching his game on the court, because he does have a smaller size, obviously a much more physically fit than AI was, right? Meaning that he has a lot of muscle and he has a lot of strength to his body, but just what he's been able to do. And again, he's got the lineage, man. Like, how do you not like Jalen Brunson, right? You watch his dad and Rick and play in Temple for Cheney. And then, you know, and there you go. You got Jalen Brunson goes to Nova with, you know, and with Jay Wright. Now he goes to Dallas. They don't want to give him the big money contract. They let him go. He gets maxed out by the Knicks. And now he's carrying a team while Julius Randle's out. So it's like, you know, you can't say enough about Jalen Brunson, in my opinion. One of my favorite players, hands down. One of my favorite players. Just watching everything he does on, you know, on the court. Now, Joe says, imagine if Iverson had a spot-up shooter. Now, Joe's right on this. Kukoc was probably their best 1-2 combo, right? And again, that was at the end of Kukoc's run, right? But unfortunately, you know, it was. But he was their best pure shooter they ever had paired up with AI. He said, but if they had a spot-up shooter to knock down threes in today's game, it would be sick. Like, think about it. Like, even if, you know, you had a guy that was spot up, like, even though he's at a quick release, but, you know, you throw a guy like Nick Batum that's just going to jack up threes. If you throw a guy out there that's just shooting up the threes, man, you know, I like a Klay Thompson, you know, like something like that. Like, obviously you have Steph, but Steph's all, you know, he does a lot, but you got a guy like Klay just sitting there waiting for that three, man. Paul Pierce, right? Matt, you got Ray Allen, dudes are just living on the outside. Man, you talk about that, you know, that cross court pass or that pass to the corner to shoot that PJ Tucker three, except this time these guys would actually make it. That would be fantastic, man. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Javon says Iverson that's right, double K. That's right. He had Kyle Korver later in his career, but that was before Korver became that dude from three. That was before he went to Utah. Right. But Kyle Korver, man, Kyle Korver. If we would have had Kyle Korver, the 3-point Kyle Korver, man, that could have been deadly. That could have been deadly. Adam says, I saw Paul the Sixers second highest. Yeah, they were like plus 225 to bring Jimmy Butler back. Listen, I think Devin Caney wrote out there that you'd probably you'd have to pick her up off the floor. I would second that. I have the ultimate man crush on Jimmy Butler. I don't care if he's hurt. I don't care if maybe he's not the same. It doesn't matter, man. He's a dog. he's a dog. And if I can get, like I said that before when we talked about, remember, if you remember the conversation from Tuesday night, I was talking about Kyle Lowry. And I was saying, for all these people out there that are going to tell me they don't want Kyle Lowry, why? He's a dog, man. Like, you're closing out games with Bev and Kyle Lowry in the backcourt, like getting up in people's mug, picking pockets. Like, come on, man. Why would you not like to have Jimmy Butler? Like, at the end of the day, like, you definitely would want Jimmy Butler, man. He's the perfect person to throw on his team if you're looking for a long playoff run to get past that second round. So I would definitely I would be all over Jimmy Butler. Now, Vance says you could argue the AI could have been more efficient taking less shots with another star player by his side. The Sixers, oh man, the Sixers blew not drafting Dirk. What draft was that, Vance or Javon or Joe, Adam? You remember who they draft again over Dirk? It's been so long, man. They messed up so many freaking drafts. Sometimes I forget. Javon says Iverson had, I bet we talked about the Corver. Oh, Joe says Corver would have been nice to bring back. Like, it was so many times it was rumored. So many times it was rumored. And it's just again and again and again. Now, Eric checking in on Facebook says Allen Iverson all day. Play with bumps and bruises and played 48 minutes per game. I take anybody from his era over today's players. Today players are soft. I'm a 90s NBA guy, so I'm a bit biased. Now, I don't think you can call Joel Embiid soft, right? And I know that's not what you were saying. You were just generalizing the players. It was Larry Hughes from St. Louis. My God. LB. God, Larry Hughes. Jesus. You imagine? Like, oh my God, if we had Dirk. Oh my God. Like, they're the kind of drafts you just look back and be like, bro, like I know, like, I'm still pissed off that we didn't draft Kyle Hamilton, like, for the Eagles instead of Jordan Davis. And again, like, it's because I was in front of the screen. Like, I was like, yes, Kyle Hamilton. Like, I had a draft party. We were all, and then when they said Jordan, I'm like, come on, man. All because you, and again, here's what the thing that pissed me off about that. And I don't want to get into a long, strong Eagles conversation because I've been so nauseated with the talk about the Eagles every single day. I want to switch it up. But the fact that the only reason why they drafted Jordan Davis is because they go with that whole we're only drafting O-line or D-line in the first round mentality. Like, and it's like that high. It's ridiculous. And that's why they didn't draft Kyle Hamilton, because they didn't want to draft safety that high. I thought it was too high. Now, let's not look at the overall player. Let's just look at the position analysis. Again, ridiculous and stupid. But Larry Hughes was on this team and never really did anything special until he wasn't on this team. Which were a lot of players were like that, right? A lot of players are like that. Eric says on Facebook again, the only answer here is Embiid. Iverson is by far my favorite Sixer ever. Embiid is a unicorn if healthy, and that's a big if. So he's going Embiid, right? So he's going there. So there's another nod for Embiid. Then we also go, Joe says for the very reason he got rolled the other night, double teamed while he tried to put it on the floor. And once again, he's on the shelf. Give me the mighty warrior who brought it every night, speaking about AI. So again, I'm an AI guy too. Now, my man Pete checking in says Embiid can't teach size. Other than Steph, no guard can win as option number one on a team. A healthy Joel gets you AI scoring and much more. Not a bad comment there, right? Not a bad comment. So can't teach tall, right? Can't teach tall. But I don't know, man. I still, he says other than Steph Curry, I still think that AI would have been enough if he didn't have to rip up the rock 40, 50 times a game. He had the will to win, and yeah, he wanted the ball in his hands at the end of the game. Sure. What dominant superstar doesn't? But at the same token, I do think he would have been more susceptible to giving the ball away if it wasn't Eric Snow or Rajah Bell or George Lynch, right? I just think that was the reason why. And I think if you built around him with a guy on the like a Ray Allen out there, like a Dirk Nowitzki, give him freaking Shaq down low. Are you kidding me? Like, that's the thing. You could build a super team around Embiid or AI. That's why for me, like, I have to go AI. I have to go AI. Now, my man Chuck, who always buries me, but he's a great dude. It's like a professional. He's a professional heckler, which I love Chuck. Because Chuck will tell me I'm right every now and then, which is good. He says simple Embiid, that's easy. That's what he says. Now, again, Adam says I'm picking AI. I think a lot of people are going to be on AI. Vance says they had their choice of Pierce or that's right. Oh, God. Coming out of Kansas, Paul Pierce. I swore they were taking Pierce. Yeah, because he had the KU background. Yep. Now I remember. Either one of those guys. Oh, my God. And then of all places, you let him go to friggin' Boston. Oh, like it's like the way the NBA works, man. It is so nuts. Oh, excuse me. It's so crazy. It really is. And I love how we can talk about this because, as much as the game has changed and as much as it's more of a guard driven league, you still to be able to witness what Embiid is doing, what Jokic is doing, what Wemby is doing, is like absolutely phenomenal, right? Because as much as we loved guys like David Robinson, guys like Hakeem Olajuwon, right? Guys like Tim Duncan, who still for me, Tim Duncan does not get enough love, man. Does not get enough love. They were not doing the things that Joel Embiid. Listen, Shaq, to me, in my opinion, most dominant player of all time. We can get into that one day too, but most dominant player of all time for me is Shaq. So when you think about it, there's never going to be another Shaq. Never be another Shaq. And if he could only shot like 70% from the free throw line, oh my Lord, man. Now Adam says, could you imagine if it was Kobe and Iverson together? Now that might be a ball problem because that Mamba mentality meant that he needed the ball all the time, man. All the time. Joe says, what time frame is it? Embiid and Iverson's time? He wouldn't be what he is today. Iverson today, he'd be even better with less contact. Well, I didn't even think of the time frame, Joe. That's a good point, right? With no guard checking, right? No waist checks. All the open lanes, the Euros, like all that stuff. Iverson would be much better in a league that plays no defense because then he wouldn't have to worry about working out. He wouldn't be worrying about his small size and stature. He'd get to the lane. That's why Maxey, like he's got that Maxey speed. Like that's why I said like Maxey is the quickest guy to the hoop I've seen since AI. The quickest guy I've seen since AI. And you're right. With no contact, my God. Joe says Iverson penetrating, kicking to Pierce or Dirk, that would dominate back then. And in today's game, too, that's a combo. You're right. That would dominate in both eras. Which is huge. So that's why I like this. Okay, because you start to listen, and again, I like to do things like this because you turn on the radio, you turn on another podcast, and I'm not disrespecting anybody, but it's all the same stuff, man. Like we're all talking about the same stuff. Well, what are you going to do about Joel Embiid? Can we win with Joel Embiid? Are we going to bring somebody back? Like, okay, you're going to hear the same things over and over again. That stuff's not going to change. Yeah, we're going to have our opinions and we're going to be frustrated and we're going to lash out a little bit because it's the same old, right? But at the same token, man, let's talk about something a little different. And that's what I'm trying to do. This is an alternative. I've said this before for anybody new listening again. My name's Tony Cutillo. This is Heat Ratio Sports. It's a platform that I've founded, that I have a great community with, great supporters that I'm going to continue to build. And what better way to do it than have an alternative late at night that not everybody has, right? You know, do you want to listen to the same thing over and over again, or listen, maybe you just want to listen to some sports historian stuff, and that's what I'm a sports historian. I like to go back at different eras, and I like to put like debatable topics, not because I'm trying to get clicks, because I sincerely am curious about people's opinions, and that's what I love it. You know, the response that I had on Facebook, right? The response I had on Facebook was literally like from the ages of people from 15 to 73. And that's what I love about it. I love hearing people's different opinions, man. I love it. Like, you know, and that's just great when I do stuff for the Blue Coats and I have Coach Joe on with me, and Coach Joe goes back. We had Sonny Hill on, and Sonny Hill obviously goes back. He took us back to the 50s. It gave me a knowledge I never knew. That's what I like. Like, who's talking about that, man? Nobody's talking about it. And that's what I love about this. Joe says, could always do a hacky Mount Rushmore of Thanksgiving. So, yeah, like, come on, man. Like, I just can't anymore. I can't. And again, it's no disrespect, but like, I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. So that's why I was like, I just got to do my own thing. I just got to do my own thing, man. Like, and just make it for me, in the sense that just like what I'm comfortable in, what I want to do, and just roll with it. And I love it. Now Joe says Shaq and Duncan would eat Embiid. Absolutely. But it doesn't it seem odd, Joe, that and maybe, and I always say this, I always think it's because Tim, when I talk, obviously we'll talk about Tim Duncan. Because he wasn't a flashy player and because he didn't open his mouth a lot, I just don't think he gets the same notoriety, right? I just don't. Again, I say this, man, if you have not watched Tim Duncan play, whether it was in Wake Forest or whether it was San Antonio, he was before his time, man. He was just smooth, silky smooth. And I don't think he gets the notoriety. He's never mentioned when he should be, in my opinion. And that's why I like talking about him. He went about his business the right way. He never really had any adversity. He never really came out. There was no, no allegations against him for anything. Nothing, man. Tim just came to play. You know, and under that talk tutelage and or under the pop tutelage. I'm sorry, I said talk. I don't know why I said talk, but under the pop tutelage, he took it to another level, man. Like you know, again, you know, I love this, and this is what Joe's talking about. This is why I love it, right? Stories about Duncan never giving into the trash talk infuriated others. Dude just played simple yet unstoppable. That's a great thing right there. That comment, simple yet unstoppable. That is 100% how you describe Tim Duncan. Really, like he just balled. He was like, you know, in a sense, I'm going to go old school here, Joe, and anybody listening. Let's go back to Hickory, to Hoosiers, and Jimmy Chitwood, man. All Jimmy Chitwood didn't want to do, he just want to play ball. Remember, he walked up to the church and says, I just want to play basketball. And that's Jimmy Chitwood, man. That was Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan just wanted to play ball. And especially in that era where you talk about trash talking, man, that New York Knicks team, all they did was trash talk. You had guys like Mad Max out there, Vernon Maxwell, that wouldn't shut his mouth, right? Steve Francis wouldn't shut his mouth. I mean, there's so many dudes out there that wouldn't shut their mouth. And he just played through it. Man. He was a gentle giant, literally gentle giant. But he was amazing. I love watching footage of Tim Duncan. Adam says, I love this show because I like hearing about old school era and all the games that we forget about, and we can relive the great moments. Adam, that's exactly why I do it, man. I'm being honest with you. That's exactly why I do it. I try to not only educate myself, but bring back the memories for everybody else, the things that we've forgotten about, right? Because, certain things really connect me and they stay with me. And I tell this before, I'll say it real quick again. My previous career, all I did was listen to Big Daddy Graham. And the only reason why I listened to Big Daddy Graham is because I was an overnight guy. And I enjoyed listening to Big Daddy Graham because Big Daddy Graham, he wasn't afraid to go against the callers, but he also gave you the historic side of sports. It wasn't always about today. And I always said, man, like, that's going to be who I am. I want to be able to go all over the map. I want to be able to go to the 90s, the 80s. And again, the eras that I played in, or I mean, that I watched in, right, in my prime. And that's what I love to do because, I think we forget about that. I do. We really, like you said, Adam, we forget about that. And it's so important. Sonny Hill said on the Blue Coats Beat, and do me a favor, if you're not subscribed to the Blue Coats Beat, if you want to support your boy, man, go subscribe to the Blue Coats Beat. It's everywhere. It's Apple, it's Spotify, it's Google. It's the podcast that I do for the Delaware Blue Coats. Obviously part of the 76ers. Me and Coach Joe, we have some fantastic interviews on there. It was great. We had Sharif Abdur-Rahim on just talking about, how it was to be drafted third overall, talking about, back then. He had a great point. Sharif said, which really stuck with me too. He said, listen, back when he made the NBA, he said it was a dream. It was something that it was like, wow, could I really, really get to the NBA? It felt like a dream that would never happen. So when you hear your name called, he said it was kind of like surreal, like you couldn't believe it. He's like, nowadays it's expected. And he didn't say it as a negative. He just said that these kids are so much more connected to the NBA style and the NBA product more than they ever were in that era. And he's right. You look at these big time semi-pro leagues that they run and AAU and the networks and the social media and the podcast. They're so connected to these. They're more connected to these players than anybody's ever been. And that was a good point that he made. And I was 100% on board with that. And he's right. And Sonny Hill said to me, latest and greatest. That's what he said, latest and greatest. And I used to say, I remember saying to Sonny, what do you mean? He said, everybody just wants to talk about the latest and greatest, and nobody wants to talk about the history of the game. He said, and we're doing our kids in this era a disservice by not taking them back, by not taking them back to those eras and giving them that education and showing them these players and giving them the stats and giving them the records, because all they're looking at is Steph. And I think Steph Curry is undoubtedly a GOAT. Not the GOAT, but a GOAT. He is one of the greatest of all time. But the problem is, it's the audience that forgets about Michael, forgets about Oscar Robertson, right? Forgets about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Right? There's an audience that forgets about that. So it's hard to just be like, GOAT. He's the greatest of all time, because I watched him jack up threes. I watched him take over games. I watched him be silky smooth. I watched him actually be a workhorse from end to end to just lead the Golden State Warriors when nobody thought he was ever going to be that good. That's why people pass on him out of Davidson in the draft. He had bad ankles. We heard everything. He was never going to be able to play. My God, never be able to play. Woo, man. But again, you got to look back too. You got to go back too and look at other players that were ball dominant, other players that were GOATs in their right mind. I brought up Kareem because I don't think people put his name up there enough. It's crazy to me. And again, I think it's just because they're uneducated. I think honestly they're uneducated when it comes to the game of basketball. And I'm not saying I'm just saying that maybe they choose to be uneducated. I'm not saying they're stupid or dumb or anything like that. I'm saying they're uneducated when they go back to the history of the game. And it could be they don't want to and they care not to. That's fine. But that's kind of being disrespectful to the actual game itself. Because if you can't put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar up in that top 3, you're out of your mind. You're out of everybody just wants to be cliche and be like Michael, Kobe, LeBron. Like, no, man. No. Kareem got to be up there. Kareem's got to be up there for me. Now, I do say, I'm still going to be a Jordan guy. And I'm going to argue with people left and right, and that's okay. That's okay. But I will say, I say it again, as much as we want to pin the two against each other, meaning Jordan and LeBron, my God, if you've been able to watch both of those guys in your prime, you've been extremely blessed. That's all I got to say. You've been extremely blessed. To be able to say that you've watched and witnessed Michael Jordan in his prime and LeBron James in his prime. Game over, man. I'm good. And I go back and I think of, and fellas, women, whoever's listening, listen, if you're my age and you're my era, right? And we're talking, I'm 45. So, those 80s, like mid 80s and early 90s and late 90s, man, that was my time. And even after that in the 2000s. But I look at the lineage of players that I've been blessed to be able to watch in their prime. And my God, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, AI, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, Michael, Steph. Are you kidding me? Duncan, what? Like, again, and you can say what you want. I will say this very, very adamantly, right? That you will never have the amount of players like that in today's NBA that you'll make a list and be like, man, these guys were great for so long. It just will never happen. This is never going to happen. You're going to have Ja Morant incidents. You are. Unfortunately, you are. These kids are young. They're immature. They're not ready for the responsibility. And it's not their fault sometimes. They just don't have a good support base. I say it all the time. Some of the players have a fantastic support base. Some of them don't. Some of them don't. I mean, how many times did I have to hear everybody tell me I was crazy saying that I didn't think Zion was ever going to be a star in the NBA? They told me I was nuts. You're out of your mind. You're ridiculous, dude. What are you smoking? What are you on? You're trying to get clicks. No, actually, I'm not. I just said his game I didn't think translated to today's NBA. Sorry. That was just my point. Obviously the easy comparison is Larry Johnson. But when you go back and I look at what he does great, and yes, if he's getting to the rim, if he's hitting the outside shot, he's a damn good baller. He is. But I just look at him and he's got that Barkley kind of size. And in today's NBA, it's just not going to work. It's, in my opinion, it's just not going to work. I could be wrong, but so far I've been right. And I also had an inkling that he had a little bit of an attitude issue. So, again, that kind of, you see it, right? You see it. And Joe's right. Joe says if Zion would drop 30 pounds, his body would recover better. He doesn't have the desire. See, and that's why I got passionate tonight when I saw Jalen Brunson get passionate about making an all-star game, because he gets it and he lives the game and he respects the game. a lot of these people, a lot of these kids don't respect the game like that. They don't respect the lineage. They don't respect the history. They don't respect the concepts. So when I see a guy like a Jalen Brunson do that, it makes you think, wow, man, he gets it. He was brought up right. He was brought up right. So that's one of the, yeah, like here you go. Here Joe says, yep, he's similar to Coleman. Great name, Derek Coleman. Could have been the man, but was too slow. Man, if that dude just had like 2 less drinks a day and actually cared about his physique and his conditioning, he was unstoppable. DC was unstoppable. He was his own enemy, man. He was his worst own enemy. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. You know, just to even see how good he was in Jersey. But the problem was, you know, he just couldn't help himself. Couldn't help himself, man. So that's a great way to, you know, again, you never know where this conversation is going to go. 52 minutes, and we covered so many different names. And that's what I like about it. I like going back, man. I do. I love going back. Joe, wow, Maxey had 43 in the third. Man, I'm curious. Let me know if he hits 50, Adam. Let me know if he hits 50. Joe says, oh, he just put money on Utah to close out the fourth, thinking the Sixers will run out of gas. Joe's live betting, man. I like it. Live betting. I like that, man. I like that. Live betting, man. Live betting. That's the way to go. Make sure too, if anybody out there in the audience, I'm going to be starting to do some promos, and one of them is one that I work very hard at. If you guys don't know, do a lot of work for Win Daily Sports, do a lot of media for them, do a lot of coverage for them, and tell you what, man, they have some fantastic tools. So if there's sports bettors out there, prop tools, DFS players, fantasy players, man, you know, you let me know, and I can get you a membership and check it out. Let me know what you think, and then we can hook you up a little bit on a trial, and then obviously you'd have to pay for it, but it's very, very cost efficient if you're a sports bettor. They got a fantastic prop model. I love it. I'm addicted. I'm addicted to the prop model, man. Like seriously, I love the prop model. Joe says Cork Maz with white sneakers getting a lot of minutes. That has to sway to Utah. He's actually has the white dogs on tonight. No fluorescent peach, no fluorescent yellow. Man, I love it. I love it. Let's swing over to a little Phillies talk. And I saw this on the thing today. And number one, can we just give, you know, all, and I know, Joe, you're a baseball guy. David, if you're still listening, you're a baseball guy. Adam, I know you like ball. And I know everybody, a lot of people listen to this on replay in the morning, which is great. So if you're on your morning drive to work and, you know, you didn't see it, you got to respect what the Baltimore Orioles are doing, man. Like here's what I say, you know, they just get Corbin Burns. They just trade for Corbin Burns. Are you kidding me? Like, again, it's so funny because last year, coming into the Major League Baseball season, I was on record. You know, we do a lot of shows. I'll be and by the way, I'll be back on Sirius. Let you guys know too. I'll be back on Sirius. Back on after the Super Bowl, the weekend after the Super Bowl. Be back on Sunday nights. 7 to 9, 7 p.m., 9 p.m. on Sirius. And we were covering baseball. And we were talking about, you know, surprise teams. I had the Orioles. I said, yo, the Orioles are going to be fun to watch this year. And again, that was just, and I'll be quite honest, it wasn't because I watched a ton of Orioles games, but I did watch a lot of highlights, but I played a lot of MLB DFS. I did a lot of home run bets, and I noticed their team. I started following it because they had so much power with Santander and oh my God, like that team, every position could hit, man. Like every position. Cedric Mullins, absolute beast in the outfield. And all I said was, man, if they could just get the pitching locked in, they're going to be tough to beat. And the one thing that happened and it reminds you of the Phillies, right? When the Phillies were young and they play Colorado, first year they made the playoffs, right? And they go out there and they get beat up. They get beat up. And it happens. And this is a young team. They're going to be around for a while, man. And now what do they know? They go out and they say, we're going to go get some Corbin Burns, man. Because they built that the right way. They built that franchise the right way, where they didn't give up all their farm system, and they brought these guys up, and they kept replenishing the talent. And now they have the luxury of being able to make a deal like this because the young guys are already up and blocking the other young guys that were down in the minors. So now now they can get rid of those guys. And they can get an established guy. And to do that, you get an established top 5 pitcher in baseball to anchor your staff. Now, the one piece that you were missing, man, shout out to the Orioles for doing that, man. Only because I do love the young nucleus that they have out there. I think they have a great attitude. Buck doing it again. Buck doing it again, man. Shout out Buck, just doing it again. Alan says, how you like the Phillies interlock jerseys? Interesting, I will say. Interesting. I was expecting a little something different, but hey, look, it's not red pinstripes. It's not gray. It's not, that the tan. It's not so I'm good. A little change up. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. But what I want to talk about is Jose Alvarado, because MLB.com, as they've been doing their top 10 lists, we talked about on the show. We did second base. I think we did outfield, first base. Bryce Harper was number 2 at first base. Alec Boehm getting some love at third base. I think they put him at number 10. Bryson Stott getting snubbed, gets no love at all. Doesn't even get on the top 10 list at second base, which I thought was a joke. We talked about this on the show. But now they put Jose Alvarado as the number 10 relief pitcher in the game. And my question is, do you think he can be the Phillies closer? Now, I know Topper likes to mix the bullpen up. And I know he really loves, he likes to get Hoffman in there in certain situations. He likes Dominguez, who to me was very unreliable last year. He was scary at times. I know they have Kerkering that they're really excited about. I still think this year Kerkering would be more of a 7th inning guy. Still have that feeling. I think he still has to be polished and has to get in some really good game scenarios. So I do like Kerkering to take over the 7th inning role. And I think that you have Hoffman, obviously, as your long guy, come in the 6th inning if you have to. Maybe he does the 7th, and Kerkering and Dominguez share the 8th. But I do think right now, man, Alvarado is your closer. And I think what we witnessed last year, even though I could be way off on this, and this is just complete speculation and just my opinion of what my eye test shows me, but I feel like Alvarado is steadier and consistent when he's not bounced around. So I really, really think that Alvarado needs to be the guy and needs to be told he's the guy. And he can't be coming in the 6th inning because Topper wants him to face the cleanup hitter. He can't I don't think you can treat Alvarado as a left-handed specialist anymore. Alvarado needs to be your closer. And he needs to know he's your closer. And he needs to know that he's going in the 9th inning unless for some reason he's unavailable. None of this flipping him around. Not, you're going to do the 8th or no. To me, he needs to be the closer. And I think his mentality will shift a little bit and get that much better if they're honest with him and they just set the bullpen and stop doing this stupid closer by committee junk and just saying Alvarado is my guy. Now, Joe says Alvarado is filthy. Should have been their closer. I agree instead of Kimbrel. Kerkering, just like I said, Joe, I agree. We're on the same page again. He needs some games after getting shelved, man. I did forget about Gregory Soto. I think that's a good, really good name that you throw out there as a bounce back candidate because he was filthy in Detroit. And he came over and it was like, he had some games where he was filthy, but at the same time, he had some games where he couldn't find the strike zone. And I think he shaved his hair. I think that would do it. Like he tried to get a little skeptical about things and spiritual, but I think he just needs an off season, to understand his role. I think that messes with dudes' heads. And when you come from Detroit, who had you in a specific role, and then you come over here and you're getting bounced around and you're coming in 6th inning, you're coming in 8th inning, you're coming like you don't even know where you're going to be. It's a different mentality, man. Like people will tell you that. People will absolutely tell you that it takes a strong mentality to be a reliever in baseball. And I don't care what age they're at. It could be high school, it could be college, it could be the pros. You have to have a specific mentality. That's why a lot of those guys, like, they come out with certain songs or they come out with certain attitudes. Even when we didn't like that dude, John Rocker was an animal, right? But John Rocker, it's because he had to come in a certain way because he was just a weird individual, right? These closers, Billy Wagner, weird individual. They have a lot of these really weird routines, but I just say that because they have a mental toughness that really signifies them being a closer. And I think that was one of the issues with Gregory Soto. Like I said, I think he came over and he wasn't it was hard for him to adjust, to going back and forth. And Joe made a good point too. He says Alvarado was sent down and he came back up and was a stud. Soto refined. Could be the same way. So I feel the same way about that too. He was throwing hundreds, 101. He was filthy if he was on, but he was only on like 20% of the time. Joe says exactly, and I think Joe's alluding to the fact that we need Alvarado just to know what his role is. He says Kapler killed Hector Neris, bringing them in different times and have a warm up twice a game. Set the pen rotation too. Yes, guys get prepared for their job when they know they're inning. I don't want to hear, you know what I don't want to hear this year, Joe? And I like Topper. I'm a Topper guy. I do. I like Topper's an old school guy. I do think that he tries to adjust a little too much to analytics, but he is an old school guy. I like his demeanor. I do think it's a guy they needed on this team. But man, can I stop hearing battle tested, please? Like I want to stop hearing the word battle tested. For the love of God, stop saying battle tested. I don't want to hear, well, Hoffman's been battle tested, so he's ready to go whenever. Or this guy, nah, man, stop. Stop with the battle tested, Bob. Stop. Or Rob, just call him Bob. But stop with the battle tested. I want guys to know their role. Sure, maybe there's times that, you want to have a 2-inning save, right? Or maybe a guy comes in the bottom of the 8th, or the top of the 8th for the last batter, and he's going to do a 4 or 5 out save. That's different. I want these dudes to know their role. Am I the mid relief guy? Am I the long guy? Am I the setup guy? Like, where am I at so I can prepare? Because not only do you prepare mentally, but when you're in the game and you're sitting out there shooting out sunflower seeds, you could sit there and you could kind of think in your mind, like, okay, it's 6th inning. All right. Wheeler's out there. How many pitches he has? 93. All right. I'm a 7th inning guy, man. I should probably get up. Even if I'm not, I know they're told to warm up, but what I mean is get up and get involved in the game. Kind of understand what's going on at that point. Get that mentality, because now your mentality is always looking at what inning is it. Now these dudes have no idea where they're going. So, yeah, I agree. Joe says closers are insane. Exactly. They're in sandals for 6 innings, man. They start getting blood pumping around the 7th to begin the stretch. If it's by committee, it's tough mindset to get to. I mean, these guys, Joe makes a great point. These guys have, stretching exercises, that have nothing to do with pitching. Maybe it's their calves. Maybe it's their glutes. Maybe it's their groins, right? What hamstrings. Maybe it's their ankles or Achilles because of the way they push off on the mound. Who knows? But they also want to get amped up, man. They want to get pumped up. And how much would it suck If you get yourself pumped up because you think you're a seventh inning guy, and all of a sudden now you go in the ninth inning and you lose all that juice. Or all of a sudden, it's seventh inning, and you're thinking, all right, I got one more inning. Next inning, I'm gonna get up, get loose, get twisted. And all of a sudden, like get up in a penny. You're like, what? It's the seventh inning. Like the mindset is just completely off and jaded. So one thing I would hope for the Phillies is I think Alvarado is extremely talented. It was really good, feel good story too, that he finally, and shout out to the Phillies too for working with him to get his family, their green cards and stuff to be able, or their visas to be able to get over here. And they finally did. He was able to be reunited with all his family. So shout out to him in the offseason, man. That had to be a wonderful thing, man. And, that had to be weighing on him too, because that was a problem all year. So now you have a guy that's, mentally sounded right now. He's got the proper mindset. If you tell him, yo, Jose, you're going to be the closer, now he can adjust his entire mindset for the year and know when he's going in. So I hope that's what happens. And I hope that's why they're not out there spending a boatload of money on relief pitchers. I do. I really hope that's why they didn't go after Josh Hader. I would not have paid Josh Hader that kind of money. I just wouldn't have. I think it's ludicrous in today's game. Sorry. It just name me. I say this all the time. Name me a closer. Like I in the last 10 years, it's won somebody a World Series. Now, obviously, we have Brad Lidge, right? So, he was an integral part of that team in 2008. But name a closer in the last 10 years. It's really and that's the thing. You really can't. You really can't. You're not relying on you're relying on your starting pitching and your bullpen as a whole, right? Your bullpen as a whole is what you're relying on today's MLB, because you have so many limitations on the arm and the pitch count. Everybody's on a pitch count. When he gets to 60, he's getting pulled. Okay, well, you have to have that committee of arms, not closers, committee of arms. So to pay, yeah, exactly. 5 years, man. 5 years for Hader. Big gamble. I'm sorry for a closer. 5 years, that's too much. It's too much. They're going to regret that, man. I'm telling you, I really feel like they're going to regret that. You go more than 3 years for a closer in today's market, it's too much. 2 to 3 years has got to be tops. Just got to be, because people have to get out of the mindset that you're going to have that Billy Wagner or that Mariano Rivera. You're not going to have that stand the test of time guy anymore. That's just not, there's not going to be no John. Even John Franco switched teams, right, back in the day. So you're not going to have that guy anymore. Rick Aguilera, right? Those guys switch teams. It's not the same. That's why Mariano Rivera was such an anomaly, man, because he just that Yankee lineage. That's why I love Mariano Rivera. Another guy who just like a Tim Duncan, man. Just want the pitch. Just give me the ball. Just give me the ball. That's it. Give me the ball and let me dominate in a ninth inning. And that's what Mo did. So shout out to him as well. And Mo Rivera, another great name. But yeah, I say to end on this, Jose Alvarado needs to be the closer of this team, 100%. And I do feel like something's coming. I'm not sure what it is for the Phillies, but something's coming. Something's coming. I don't know if I don't think it's going to be a big trade, but something's coming with the Phillies. They've been too quiet, and I think for a reason. I think they're really, really diving in, and I like it. I will say this: I'm going to give Bryce Harper a ton of credit. I'm going to give Dombrowski a ton of credit, and Dombrowski's a baseball lifer. You can love him or hate him, but Dombro is a baseball lifer, and he's respected well around the league. And what they did with Reese, I thought was classy. I do. I think it was complete class. They didn't string him along. They went to Bryce and they basically said, "What are we doing here?" And look, Bryce wanted to play first base. He liked playing first base. He knew it would prolong his career. He knew that he would have that opportunity to play in, for a longer time. But he also knew that one of his best friends was going to be impacted by it. But again, he wasn't as, he didn't say, no, I'll play the outfield so we can keep Reese. And then all of a sudden I can't play. And then, he knows the business side of it. But what I like about it is, Dombro basically calling him in early and giving him a heads up, meaning Reese, and be like, look, Reese, we love what you've done for the organization, but we just don't feel like there's a spot for you here because of what happened. Not because we don't love you, and not because you're not a forever Philly, and not because you're not going to be productive. It's just with the way things happen, he's a liability in the outfield. We already knew that. You already have a guy in Schwarber who's locked up, who is going to have to be your DH because of his knees. And we've already talked about this, and Joe's in agreement. We both have the same opinion on Brandon Marsh, that he has to be your left fielder because he takes bad angles to the ball in center field. So he needs to be a corner outfielder, which now you have Rojas, right? Now you have Rojas, and now, or do you get another center fielder? They keep talking about, Cody Bellinger. Joe says, I don't want Cody Bellinger. The $525 million bats do their job. I agree. Let the and I do think there's a rise this year in Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm is my guy who I think is going to have the breakout 25 home run year is going to be Alec Bohm this year. I'm calling like 285, 290, 25, 30 home runs, and probably about 105 to 110 RBIs. I think that's what you get from Alec Bohm. I do. I think he's that good. He's that driven. So I look at this lineup and I continue to say it's deadly. It's a deadly lineup, man. It's a deadly lineup. Joe makes a good point. Says Hoskins has 1 year opt out to return as a DH next year, and don't think he doesn't know that, and the Phillies don't know that either, right? They know that. They absolutely know that, and that's why they did it with class. Rhys Hoskins will finish his career as a Philadelphia Philly. Make no mistake about it. He will come home, and that's why I was telling people. Like, a lot of people were mad, a lot of people were upset. I was like, listen. Rhys will be back here. Whether it's next year or the year after, Rhys will be back home, and he will at least have 1 or 2 more productive seasons with the Philadelphia Phillies. I firmly believe that. Adam says, I want Jake Cave out of town tonight. Poor Jake Cave, man. Why you like Jake? Jake just come in and try to do a job, man. Like, come on, man. No love for Jake Cave. No love for Jake Cave. But I get it, man. I 100% get it. It's all good. It's all good. But Stott, yeah, man. Listen, I am a huge Bryson Stott guy. He's got to be he's got to be your leadoff hitter, in my opinion. I do think he's your prototypical leadoff hitter. I love Bryson Stott so many different ways. And again, he's another, like, one of the things that I really like to do, and I continue to do it every year. Maybe I'll see, Adam or Joe or one of you guys down there. I like to take my boys and me, my dad, and my boys. I like to go to a lot of the minor league games. I love going to Reading, watching the Fightins. I like going to Lehigh Valley. Even went to Lakewood a few times. Was pretty cool. And I watched Bryson Stott. And I remember saying, wow, this dude's got such a great field presence about him. And I just looked at his swing, and I didn't realize how much power he could pack into his body. And it wasn't that he was hitting like these tremendous home runs. He was hitting the ball hard on the nose. And I was like, wow, man, when he gets up there, if he works with the right guy, I think he's going to be special. And to see the work that he's put in with Kevin Long, and also see his buddy Bryce Harper teaching him that quick slide step swing on 2 strikes. It's been a game changer. It's been an absolute game changer. Joe said, "Yeah, man. Listen, Jay Cave can play on my league too, man. I like Jay Cave, Adam. I'm sorry, Jay Cave didn't do nothing. Jay Cave, he was a gritty dude, man. He just whenever he had to play, he had to play. Oh, you're going to opening day? I don't know if I'm going to opening day yet. I was thinking about getting a 3-pack, but I don't know. I got to look. I want to. I don't want to. I'm like back and forth. I used to have the tradition. And then last year I didn't go, but I went the year before. So I don't know. I got to look at it. I might go. If I'm down there, Adam, we'll hook up. Just not sure if I'm going or not yet. I know I'm not going to WrestleMania yet. I'm trying to get the WrestleMania. I'm trying to get in a suite at the Link. So I'll let you know how that works out. Because I'm a wrestling guy, Adam. I'm a wrestling guy. So we're going to talk about that another day because I'm going to close this down. Fantastic discussion. So I was going to go 12:30. Got to get up early tomorrow, so I'm going to cut this about a half hour short. As always, fellas, appreciate you staying with me for the hour and a half. Great comments, great interaction, tons of great information back and forth. Can't wait to talk more historical sports next week. Back on Monday. Yeah, Adam, I will. Listen, seriously, I will. I mean, I'm looking into it. I know a couple people. It's not a guarantee, but there could be an opportunity. So I 100% let you know. Whoa, look at this before we get out of here. Joe just pop up with Maxey, first in the organization to have 7 7 threes and 7 free throws. Check that out. 777s for Tyrese. You know, you know what I'm glad about real fast? I'm glad that's happened tonight because I think I do hate that the Joel news came out at the same time as they announced Tyrese's his first All-Star appearance. I think it overshadowed it a little bit. But I think now that, you're watching a product and he goes out and balls out like this and gets another accolade, for the stat sheet and for his own highlight reel. Good for the kid, man. And I want nothing but the best for this kid. I hope he's a lifer for the Philadelphia 76ers for sure. But as always, man, I'm gonna get out of here on this note. Everybody, as always, make sure you're following, like, and subscribing to HRS Heat Ratio Sports. Adam, I saw your comment about the Win Daily Boys. They hit everything. I'm telling you, man. I do my fair share, but some of them cats I'm telling you, that stuff is on point. The tools that we have over there, they make a beginner look really smart. I can tell you that, man. I can tell you that. The Discord we have popping with the bets is fantastic. So you ever want to get involved, man, let me know. But as always, like I say, everybody, if you can, you got 3 days. Do one good thing every day. I always ask everybody that. I said it to my kids. Do one good thing. It could be saying hello to somebody, be holding the door for somebody. I'm a big supermarket guy. I'm going to be honest with you. I always look to see who I can help, whether it be, take their carts out for them, load up their car. Now that, I do everything from home and I'm home during the day. You go to the supermarket, it's a lot of the seniors, man. And they're trying their best. And unfortunately, we live in a very ignorant society where people walk by people. They don't help people. They're afraid to even look at people or talk to people. It's a shame. So I definitely try to do my one good thing every day. And it's usually at the supermarket, to be honest with you, because that's where I live most of the time, trying to run the errands around the house during the day. So always a fun time. But as always, man, everybody, like I always say, it's going to be a fantastic weekend. Things will be in the 50s. It's going to be sunny. Finally, everybody get out, get some fresh air, do something good. Like I keep saying, do something good each day and just continue to be a sports historian. Stay safe. I'll catch you back here. They don't.